Most traders who fail in the market are not destroyed by a lack of technical knowledge, but by a much more subtle and fatal error: the refusal to accept uncertainty. They enter a trade seeking safety, predictability, control. They want to feel right. They want to know what will happen before it even happens, and that makes them fragile. The mind that seeks certainty in the market is doomed to live in conflict, because the market does not offer certainty. It is chaotic, unpredictable, full of variables that no one can control. You can spend hours analyzing charts, crossing moving averages, watching the order book, reading news and running backtests. And still, the price can simply move against you. Not because you did something wrong, but because that's how the market is. Legendary traders don't think in terms of certainty. They think in terms of probability. They know they don't have to be right all the time. They just need to have an edge and execute it with discipline. Each trade is a piece of a bigger game. The goal is not to win today. It's to build a trajectory that, over 100 or 1,000 trades, produces a positive result. And that's only possible if you accept uncertainty as part of the game. That's the turning point. While the beginner trader enters a position with hope and ego, the professional enters with statistics and neutrality. He already knows he might be wrong. He's already prepared for the opposite scenario. And if the price drops, he doesn't panic. He follows the plan. He exits, adjusts, observes, and waits for the next opportunity. He doesn't fight the market. He flows with it. Accepting uncertainty means understanding that your value as a trader is not tied to the result of a single trade. You can have 5 losing trades in a row and still be an excellent trader. Likewise, you can have 3 winning trades and be a complete irresponsible gambler who got lucky. What defines a consistent trader is not the win rate, but how he deals with randomness. Maturity is not getting emotional with the win and not falling apart with the loss. It's seeing the market as it is, not as you wish it were. The obsession with predictability is what traps many traders in self-destructive cycles. They increase position size to recover. They hold losses out of stubbornness. They enter too late because they waited to be sure. All of it comes from the same mistake, wanting to trade with guarantees. But a real trader doesn't need that. He doesn't seek absolute confirmation. He seeks setups with an edge and executes with courage. He understands that losing is part of the process, and that the key is to lose small when wrong and win big when right. That's the game. You're not here to be right. You're here to make good decisions based on probabilities. You're here to survive first, profit later. And for that, you need to stop demanding from the market something it never promised to give you. Certainty. Accept uncertainty. Embrace discomfort. Because it is there, in the territory where most get lost, that the true traders are found. One of the biggest mistakes a trader can make is to fuse emotionally with the result of their trade. When that happens, the chart ceases to be just a representation of price and becomes a reflection of their own identity. Each candle turns into a personal judgment. Each stop becomes a humiliation. Each gain feeds an illusory pride. And it's in this cycle that many destroy themselves. You need to understand this as soon as possible. Your worth as a person is not tied to the balance in your account. You are not a failure when you take a stop. You are not a genius when you nail a trade. You are a human being dealing with probabilities in a chaotic and ruthless environment. If you place your sense of identity in the outcome of each trade, you are condemning your mind to an emotional roller coaster that will inevitably take you out of the game. The most consistent traders I've known, and this includes everyone from legendary names in books to unknown individuals who've lived off the market for decades, are almost cold when talking about their trades. Not because they don't care about money, but because they've learned not to identify with it. When they win, they follow the plan. When they lose, they follow the plan. The account grows because the mind remains stable, and the mind only remains stable when it separates the self from the result. It's common for beginners to feel angry at themselves after a loss, as if they've betrayed their own expectations, or to feel uncontrollable euphoria after a profit, as if they've proven their worth to the world. Both reactions are dangerous. The first feeds guilt and impulsiveness. The second, arrogance and overconfidence. In both cases, the trader stops, seeing the market clearly. They start trading driven by emotion, not logic. I've heard traders say things like, "Today I was terrible," or "Today I crushed it." When I look at what they did, I realize both were just reacting to the result of their last trade. The first followed the plan and lost. The second did everything wrong but made money. And both are mistaken. Because what matters in the market is not what happened today. It's the consistency of the process, not the fluctuation of the result. If you want to evolve as a trader, start observing yourself with honesty. How do you feel after a loss? Do you feel shame, anger, a desire to prove yourself on the next trade? And after a win, do you feel invincible, deserving of more? Do you think you've discovered the secret? All these emotions are normal, but they shouldn't guide your decisions. Your worth needs to be rooted outside the screen, outside the chart, outside the money. The best traders build a sense of identity that doesn't depend on performance. They know who they are, even when the market challenges them. And it's that solid foundation that allows them to stay calm, clear, and disciplined even on tough days. The market tests you not only with prices, but with illusions. And one of the most dangerous is making you believe that your last trade says something about who you are. You are not your result. You are the process you repeat every day. You are the discipline you show even when you don't feel like it. You are the courage to accept losses and the humility to review mistakes. The result is just a momentary reflection. What defines you is what you do in spite of it. The beginner trader usually comes to the market with a completely mistaken idea. He believes that with enough study, he will be able to control what will happen. He thinks that if he masters technical analysis or understands the macroeconomic scenario or follows that foolproof setup, then he will be able to predict where the price is going. This illusion of control is comfortable, but it is also the poison that paralyzes and destroys. The market is uncontrollable by definition. It is driven by millions of variables that no human being is capable of monitoring in real time. It reacts to unexpected events, to collective psychology, to political decisions, to irrational emotions. And even when everything seems aligned, the market can simply do the opposite of what was expected. The truth is that there is no way to control what the market will do. But there is something much more powerful than that. You can control what you will do in response to what the market does. Legendary traders know that risk management is the only territory truly under their command. They don't try to be right every time. They try to survive every time, because they understand that true consistency doesn't come from always being right, but from not destroying yourself when you're wrong. A small stop is a scar. An uncontrolled loss is an amputation. They don't trade based on what they think the market will do. They trade based on what they will do if the market goes against them. Risk management is not just about setting a stop. It's about setting a war plan. It's deciding before the trade what is the acceptable risk, how much capital is at stake, what the exit point will be, both for profit and for loss. It's entering the market with a map in hand, not with hope in your eyes. The trader who trades without management is adrift. He might get lucky for a while, but eventually the tide turns. And when it turns, it takes everything away. Control is a mental trap. When the trader feels in control, he loosens his discipline. He holds on to losses thinking the price will come back. He increases position size because he feels invincible. He fools himself into thinking he has the market in his hands, until the market shows him he never did. And when that happens, panic sets in. Because the one who sought external control finds himself powerless in the face of chaos. But the trader, who accepted from the start that control doesn't exist, that one remains calm, because he always traded prepared for uncertainty. That's why management is power. Because it's in management that you reclaim control. Not over the chart, but over yourself. You decide how much you're willing to lose. You decide where to exit. You decide when to stop. That gives you freedom. That gives you longevity. That keeps you in the game long enough for your edge to take effect. And that is what separates the survivors from the destroyed. While many are busy trying to control the market, the real traders are busy controlling what matters, their decisions, their emotions, their risk. And in the end, those are the ones who win. Because the market rewards discipline, always, and punishes arrogance, without mercy. Most of the destructive emotions a trader feels, fear, anxiety, anger, euphoria, do not come from the market. They come from attachment. Attachment to the outcome. Attachment to the need to win. Attachment to the idea that this trade has to work, that this month must close in profit, that this operation must prove you are good. It's this attachment that creates tension. And it's this tension that blocks clarity, distorts perception, and leads to impulsive decisions. The attached trader enters each trade carrying the weight of expectation. He's not just clicking the buy button. He's placing his hope, his self-esteem, his desire to win into that click. And when the market starts to move against him, he doesn't just see a price fluctuation. He sees a threat to his emotional safety. The stop is no longer a protection tool. It becomes a personal attack. The gain stops being a consequence and turns into a necessity, and that's when everything begins to fall apart. Because the more you need something to go right, the less prepared you are to deal with the possibility that it won't. Attachment creates blindness. You begin to ignore clear signs that the scenario has changed. You hold on to a losing position because you don't want to accept the loss. You move the stop because you don't want to be stopped out. You increase the risk because you need to recover. All of that comes from the same place. The inability to trade lightly. Legendary traders operate differently. They enter a trade because the setup appeared, the risk is controlled, and the logic makes sense. That's it. They don't place emotional meaning on the trade. If it works, great. If it doesn't, it's all good. They already knew it could go wrong. They were already prepared. They had already accepted the risk. They don't get attached, because they understand that the next trade will come. Opportunity is not scarce for those who have patience and method. Detachment is not indifference. It's not trading as if nothing matters. It's trading with presence, with focus on the process, not the prize. It's being able to see the market clearly because your mind isn't polluted by hidden desires. It's trusting that, in the long run, following the plan will take you where you want to go, even if in the short term you have to accept losses. Attachment comes from scarcity. And scarcity is an illusion. The market opens every day. There are always new chances. There are always new entries. The problem is when you believe you need to win now, on this trade, in this moment. From that point on, you are emotionally committed. And an emotional trader is a vulnerable trader, predictable, fragile. Train your mind to trade lightly. Make the stop a natural part of the process. Reduce position size until you can breathe with it. Lower your exposure until the error feels acceptable. Profit doesn't come from forcing the market. It comes from aligning with it. And that only happens when you stop trying to control the outcome and start respecting the process. The clarity that separates great traders from the rest is not born from technical knowledge, but from inner freedom. And that freedom only exists when you don't need to win to feel whole. When winning is welcome, but not essential. When loss is accepted, but not personal. When the market becomes a field of execution, not a field of validation, the less you attach, the more you see. And the more you see, the more you win. The trader who wakes up and goes straight to the chart, trying to feel the market in the heat of the moment, is building their career on quicksand, because the market does not respect improvisation. It tests, pressures, confuses. And those who enter unprepared, emotionally exposed, get lost within the first few minutes. The feeling of the day is volatile. The morning's emotion changes with one candle. The mood shifts with a series of losses. And the result is a reactive, unstable trader, a slave to their own impulses. Great traders know that real performance doesn't come from inspiration. It comes from repetition, from routine, from rituals. They create mental structures before trading. They don't let the market dictate their emotional state. On the contrary, they arrive at the screen mentally, aligned, with clarity about their own limits, with realistic goals and a plan laid out. They're not hunting for adrenaline, but for clean execution. And that mindset doesn't happen by accident. It is cultivated. Routine is not just doing the same thing every day. It's preparing the mental ground to withstand pressure, noise, and uncertainty without getting lost along the way. It's waking up and reviewing key assets, but also reviewing yourself. How are you today? Did you sleep well? Are you anxious? Is something outside the market affecting you? A trader who knows themselves has more advantage than a trader who knows 1,000 setups. Because the first can avoid the chaos that the second doesn't even see coming. Emotional resilience is built outside of the trade. It's in what you do during the hours you're not trading. It's in your nutrition, your sleep, the practice of some kind of introspection or meditation. It's in having a set time to stop trading and respecting that limit. It's in having a checklist before entering a position so you don't act on impulse. Legendary traders treat their mind the way an athlete treats their body, with seriousness, with discipline, with consistency. It's common to see beginners swinging like a pendulum. One day they feel unstoppable, the next they want to quit. One day they're cold and calculated, the next they're yelling at the screen. This isn't a lack of technical knowledge, it's a lack of internal structure. And that structure doesn't come from sudden motivation. It comes from the patient building of a routine that shields the mind from emotional extremes. You don't need to wake up at 5 in the morning or follow a military schedule, but you do need something that works for you. A ritual that signals to your brain, now I'm in trader mode. Now I take control of my mental posture. It could be a quick reading, a breathing exercise, a review of last week's mistakes. Matters is not the format. It's the commitment. Those who trade only when they feel like it will never be consistent. Because willpower is unstable. The market demands more. It demands presence, sobriety, repetition. The greats don't win because they have inspired days. They win because, even on bad days, their routine holds their emotions in place. They know they don't need to feel 100% to trade well. They just need to follow the process, and that's where the true power of routine lies. It doesn't guarantee you'll win, but it guarantees you won't lose yourself. And that, in the market, is already half the victory. Most traders enter the market thinking the real challenge lies in finding the perfect strategy. They spend months or even years hunting for setups, indicators, hidden patterns in the chart. But what truly defines a trader's success is not the system they use, but how they react when they're inside the trade. Especially when things get out of control, the market is an environment that constantly tests your emotional stability. It will give you profit just to take it all back in seconds. It will make you feel confident only to expose you to the most paralyzing doubt. It will show you a perfect setup and, at the moment of entry, completely reverse direction. It's a game of pressure, uncertainty, and constant provocation. And in this game, those who react emotionally are always one step behind. The emotional trader lives in a cycle of extremes. When they win, they feel invincible. When they lose, they feel worthless. When they're right, they increase size. When they're wrong, they tilt. And the worst part, they think these reactions are natural, as if they're part of the process. But they're not. They are the noise that prevents evolution. They are what distort the plan and destroy promising accounts. The trader who reacts with neutrality has a completely different posture. They can take a stop and, instead of blaming themselves or seeking revenge, simply note the error and move on. They can hit a big gain and, instead of thinking they're above average, express gratitude, close the position, record it in their journal, and end the day according to plan. It's not coldness. It's clarity. It's mental maturity. They don't deny emotion, but they don't let it lead the way either. Reacting with neutrality doesn't mean being apathetic. It means being emotionally balanced enough to see the market as it is, not as you wish it were. It means being able to make decisions even in the middle of chaos, because you're not trading to feed your ego. You're trading to follow a clear process. It means looking at a losing streak without panic and at a winning streak without greed. This neutrality is built through awareness. The trader needs to learn to observe their own emotional triggers. They need to notice what happens internally when the price goes against them. They need to recognize when they're trading motivated by anger, boredom, euphoria, or fear. And they need to have practical mechanisms to interrupt these impulses before they turn into disastrous actions. Deep breathing, intentional pause, cold analysis. Simple tools, but powerful ones, no matter how good your analysis is. If, at the moment of execution, you are emotionally unbalanced, your chances of making a mistake increase exponentially. And the most dangerous part is that sometimes the emotional mistake even brings profit, and that reinforces the destructive behavior. You feel like it worked, when in fact it was just luck. And luck, in the market, has a short shelf life. Legendary traders have learned that emotion derails focus. And that focus is everything. That's why they cultivate an almost monastic posture in front of the chart. They know the only way to maintain consistency is to keep the mind clean. They don't celebrate a win as if they've conquered the world, nor do they despair in the face of a loss. Each trade is just another step, a data point, one more statistic in a much bigger plan, reacting. With neutrality is one of the hardest skills to develop, but also one of the most valuable, because it protects you at both extremes. It stops you from tilting when everything goes wrong and from feeling invincible when everything goes right. And that emotional stability is what allows you, day after day, to keep trading with clarity, discipline, and presence. No matter what the market throws at you, when you stop reacting emotionally, the market loses its power to manipulate you. And it's exactly then that you begin to trade with true freedom. Most traders see mistakes as personal failure. When a trade goes wrong, the mind looks for someone to blame, often staring into the mirror. Why did I do that? How could I be so stupid? I knew I shouldn't have entered. This kind of internal dialogue doesn't fix anything. On the contrary, it only feeds guilt, shame, and stagnation. The truth is that mistakes are part of the game. They always were. They always will be. What separates mediocre traders from legendary ones is not the absence of error, but what they do after it. Mistakes are inevitable because the market is uncertain. You can do everything right and still get stopped out. You can enter with a validated setup, manage risk perfectly, and still watch the price reverse on you without warning. That's not failure. That's statistics. The problem begins when you start interpreting every mistake as a defeat. When you turn what was simply information into emotional judgment. Great traders don't react that way. They adopt a scientific attitude toward mistakes. Every stop, every poorly executed trade, every deviation from the plan becomes data. They take notes, review, observe patterns. They want to understand, was the mistake technical, emotional, a timing issue, a misread? Was it bad luck with unexpected variance, or a sign the setup needs adjustment? They're not ashamed of making mistakes. They're in a hurry to learn, and learning requires documentation. A trader without a journal is like a pilot without a black box. He crashes and doesn't even know why. Memory is unreliable under stress. You think you remember the details of a bad trade, but you're remembering with emotional distortion. Only when you document coldly, time, reason for entry, justification, feelings at the moment, execution, result, do you start to see real patterns emerge. And there, in the details, lies the gold of evolution. Making a mistake once is part of the game. Repeating the same mistake for months is stubbornness, and that's the difference. The mature trader feels the mistake as a warning, not as an attack. He uses the mistake as feedback, not as punishment. He understands that a mistake is the most honest teacher there is. Because the market doesn't sugarcoat your performance. It shows you ruthlessly where you are failing. And if you have humility, each hit becomes a lesson. A mistake only becomes a defeat when you learn nothing from it. When you pretend it didn't happen. When you go into denial. When you look for external excuses for a problem that was born inside. It was the market. It was the news. It was the foreign investor. No, it was you. And recognizing that doesn't make you smaller. It sets you free. Because the one who owns the mistake also owns the power to correct it. Behind every consistent trader, there's a graveyard of past mistakes. Each one was studied, faced, and overcome. And that's why today they trade with precision. Not because they are perfect, but because they stopped repeating what they already proved doesn't work. They treat mistakes as part of the lab. They know there's no miracle setup, but there is constant refinement. If you truly want to grow in this game, stop being ashamed of your mistakes. Expose them. Analyze. Discuss them with people who know more. Turn each stop into an investment in your development. Mistakes do hurt, yes, but they hurt much more when you choose not to learn from them. A trader who doesn't want to make mistakes doesn't want to evolve. And a trader who runs from pain ends up meeting it in the cruelest place. In their own account, every month, mistakes are not defeats. They are messages. It's up to you to silence or listen. The winners listen. And act. Many enter the market with a fixed idea, to make money at any cost. They dream of financial freedom, of the account growing day after day, of the feeling of control over their own destiny. And they believe that once they start making a profit, all their problems will disappear. But what reality shows, in a harsh and silent way, is the opposite. Profit without peace is unstable. And worse, it can be dangerous. Making money in the market doesn't solve your inner conflicts. On the contrary, it can amplify them. If you're already anxious, profit increases the anxiety. If you're already impulsive, gains reinforce the impulses. If you already carry insecurity, money only delays the confrontation with it. And when, inevitably, a losing streak comes, and it will, you will be tested in a way that your account balance cannot shield you from. Inner peace is not a reward for profit. It is a foundation. It's what allows you to keep trading with clarity when the market is volatile. It's what keeps your hand light, your mind clean, and your judgment sharp when trades seem to spiral out of control. A trader at peace is a dangerous trader, in the best sense, because he doesn't need immediate results to validate his journey. He trusts the process. He is present. And presence is an edge almost no one has. Many profitable traders have experienced moments of pure emotional collapse even while making money. It's not uncommon to find someone who made 10, 20, 50,000 reais in a month and then gave it all back the next month because they lost their center, because they confused gains with mastery, because they used profit as anesthesia for emotional problems that were never addressed. The market exposes, with surgical precision, everything that is unresolved inside you. Consistency in the market requires more than technique. It requires emotional structure. And that structure is not built in the euphoria of victory, but in the silence of self-awareness. It's what you do off the chart that sustains what you achieve on it. Sleeping well, eating consciously, having moments of disconnection, developing spirituality or introspective practices. All of that pulls you away from urgency and brings you closer to mastery. Peace allows you to trade lightly. And that lightness doesn't mean carelessness, but balance. You accept losses without despair, accept profits without arrogance. Follow the plan even when emotion tries to scream louder. And that doesn't make you robotic, it makes you stable. In the market, stability is strength. Uncontrolled emotion is weakness. When you trade in peace, the trade stops being an emotional battlefield and becomes a space for strategic execution. You're not there to prove anything. You're not trying to fix your life with a single trade. You're not seeking in the market what should have been resolved elsewhere. You're there because you've trained, because you have a method, because you trust your reading, and above all, because you know how to lose without losing yourself. Profit is the natural result of a mind in order, not the other way around. When you are whole, the chart doesn't unbalance you. When you're well resolved, the market doesn't manipulate you. When your peace doesn't depend on money, money starts to come more fluidly, more frequently, and less painfully. Because you stopped trading from a place of lack and started trading from a place of purpose. In the end, the trader who prospers is not the one who most wants to win, but the one who least needs to prove they win. And that difference changes everything. Because true consistency doesn't come from profit, it comes from the peace you build before it. And once that peace is conquered, no red candle can take it from you. The entry point for most traders is opinion. They start by listening to what others are saying, on YouTube, on Twitter, in call rooms, Telegram groups. They want to know what the big guys are doing. They want a hot tip, a confirmation, a direction. And for a while, it even seems to work, until the first big loss comes, and it exposes the truth. Trading based on opinion is like driving in the fog, relying on the passenger's screams. Opinion doesn't pay the bills. Guesswork doesn't build consistency. No great trader in history built their career because they felt it was going up. They built it on data, backtests, statistical patterns, and a cold and continuous reading of the market. They don't trade because someone said it's a good idea. They trade because they've identified an edge that repeats over time. And that, in the market, is what we call edge. An edge is something that, when executed consistently, generates profit in the long run. And the long run, in this context, is not a week. It's hundreds, maybe thousands of trades. A true edge doesn't depend on luck. It can have losses, it can go through drawdowns, but when analyzed on a large scale, it delivers a positive result. And more importantly, it's measurable. You can look at it and clearly state the win rate, the average payoff, the risk involved. Meanwhile, the trader who operates based on opinion is always at the mercy of emotion. One day he enters confident because someone confirmed his idea. The next, he hesitates because no one mentioned the asset. He never truly knows why he's entering. And if he doesn't know why he entered, he doesn't know when to exit either. He becomes reactive, insecure, vulnerable to any fluctuation. He's the kind of trader who falls apart when the market deviates from the script he imagined. The traders who live off the market treat each entry as a piece of a statistical system. They don't get excited over a string of wins because they know it's part of the curve. They don't panic over a string of stops because they've tested it enough to trust the edge they have. They trade based on facts, not faith. Their conviction doesn't come from feeling, it comes from numbers. This mindset changes everything, because when you have clarity about your edge, the pressure drops. You no longer need to be right all the time. You don't have to prove anything to anyone. You just have to repeat the process with discipline. And that gives you freedom. Freedom to not trade when there's no signal. Freedom to accept the stop, without drama. Freedom to turn off the screen when the day offers no opportunity. But reaching that level requires work. It requires stopping the search for the perfect trade and starting to build a robust sample. It requires documenting. It requires reviewing. It requires questioning your beliefs. Does this setup really work? Or do I just like it because it gives me a sense of control? Does this indicator have real statistical value? Or does it just confirm my expectations? The market doesn't reward those who are right. It rewards those who have a method. And the method must be tested, validated, measured. That's how you move from the phase of I think to the phase of I know. Not because it's certain, but because probability is on your side. At the end of the day, you have to decide. Do you want to be just another person trading in the heat of emotion? Or do you want to be a real operator? Someone who knows what they're doing, why they're doing it, and what to expect from it. If your answer is the latter, then stop following opinions and start building your own system based on what really matters. Statistics, risk management, and execution, because that's what the greats do. And that's why they last. The irony of the market is brutal and elegant at the same time. The more you need to win, the less you can. The more you enter a trade with the pressure of needing to be right, the more your mind twists, your judgment fails, and you force entries outside the plan. It's like trying to hold water with clenched fists. Desperation pushes profit away. Neediness blocks clarity. Beginner traders, more often than not, arrive at the market in a rush. They are in debt, frustrated with work, with life, or simply driven by a magical expectation of changing everything in a few days. And when they sit in front of the screen, they carry an invisible weight on their shoulders, the need to make money appear. They are not there to build a journey. They are there to fix an emotional problem. And the market, ruthless, smells that urgency and punishes. The trader who operates with that needy mindset behaves like someone holding their breath. He forces entries because he can't bear to wait. He holds on to losses because he can't accept being wrong. He increases position size because this time it has to work. And when it goes wrong, and it almost always does, he tilts. Because he didn't just lose money. He lost the chance to fix the emptiness that brought him there. And that hurts in a place deeper than the financial. Legendary traders don't trade in a rush. Don't trade out of need. They trade with method. And that difference changes everything. They don't need the next trade to work. Because they know they have a process. They know they have an edge. They know that over dozens and hundreds of trades, the result will come. Their calm is not disinterest. It is maturity. It is confidence built on repetition, discipline, and self-awareness. That mental calm creates space for more precise decisions. When you're not trading to fill an emotional hole, you can wait for the right signal. You can stop when you need to. You can follow the plan even on bad days. And the most curious part is that precisely because you no longer desperately need to win, you start to win. Because your focus shifts from outcome to process. And it's in the process that profit is born. The difference between an amateur trader and a professional is not only in technical knowledge, it's in posture. The professional behaves like an experienced hunter. He watches, waits, chooses the moment with precision. If the prey doesn't show up today, he comes back tomorrow. The amateur, on the other hand, fires in all directions, driven by hunger, by haste, by fear of not getting another chance. And ends up coming back empty-handed. It takes maturity to understand that the market is not a place to fix yourself. It's a place to execute. You will not restore your self-esteem with one winning trade. You won't erase your traumas with an unexpected profit. And if you try to do that, you'll end up stuck in a cycle of self-sabotage. Real gain only comes when you no longer need it to feel enough. That doesn't mean you shouldn't want to win. It means that the desire to win must come from a place of balance, not neediness. It must be the result of planning, not desperation. It must be the consequence of an internal structure that is already solid, not a patch for a fragile identity. When you understand this, something changes. You stop clinging to the chart like a life raft. You begin to see the trade as part of a bigger plan, a long journey. You start accepting stops without drama. You begin to see the market with more coldness, more objectivity. And that posture, silently, gives you an edge. Because most people are still fighting their own mind, while you are already free, winning is the consequence of not needing to win. When the pressure leaves, clarity enters. And with clarity, you finally begin to trade like a professional. No longer like someone seeking redemption, but like someone building consistency. And then the money comes, not as a miracle, but as a reward. Most traders are addicted to action. They need to click. They need to be positioned. They need to feel like they're doing something. There's a constant restlessness driving them, as if they're missing out by not being in the market every moment. This is one of the most expensive addictions one can cultivate, because overtrading, without filter, without criteria, without context, is the gateway to a cycle of frustration, burnout, and emotional exhaustion. Legendary traders trade less than you think, and they observe more than you notice. They spend hours analyzing context, mapping out possibilities, marking levels of interest and alternative scenarios. When they finally click, the trade had already been executed in their mind. The click is just the execution of something that was already decided with calm, clarity, and conviction. There is no impulse. There is intention. This is one of the most overlooked secrets of the game. Those who observe better, trade better. Those who don't feel the need to click all the time, think more clearly. Those who think more clearly make fewer mistakes. And those who make fewer mistakes need far fewer wins to be consistent. Because real profit doesn't come from the number of trades, but from their quality. One good trade, well structured, and well managed, can be worth more than 20 impulsive, poorly planned entries. The market leaves clues all the time, but they don't shout. They whisper. And only those who have learned to observe patiently are able to hear them. And the beginner seeks immediate confirmation. The professional seeks context. The beginner wants to enter quickly. The professional wants to enter correctly, and for that, he waits. He waits because he knows opportunity is not scarce. What's scarce is the emotional control to wait for the right moment. Observing is not wasting time. It is gaining power. It is studying price behavior. It is sensing the rhythm of the day. It is understanding where the big players are positioned. It is feeling the emotion of the market without being swept away by it. It is anticipating movement, not with arrogance, but with awareness. And that awareness demands presence. And presence can only be born in the silence of observation. Those who observe deeply perceive patterns that others overlook. They see candle behavior, volume at key zones, the false breakout that reveals everything, the trap the beginners don't recognize. This is not in the books. It's in the training. It's on the screen. It's in attention to detail. The trader who observes well acts with precision. And those who act with precision need far less effort to achieve far greater results. But this requires breaking the addiction to constant action. It requires sitting in front of the chart and accepting that not every day is a trading day, that not every movement is your opportunity, that many times the best trade is the one you didn't take. And for many, that is unbearable. Because they weren't trained to wait. They were trained to react. If you want to evolve, start practicing what few dare to practice. Observe. Observe the price. Observe your behavior in front of the price. Observe what precedes your mistakes. Observe what happens before your best trades. Train your eye. Train your calm. Train the silent listening of the market, because the market speaks. It just doesn't speak to those who are screaming inside. In the end, the true trader is not the one who is in the market all the time. It is the one who, when he enters, has already seen enough to know exactly why he is there. And that doesn't come from haste. It comes from the patience of someone who has learned that observation always comes before every real trade.